So, Mr. Killbox7 asked me if it was possible for me to cover the more broader things like the setting or the different realms in the universe. He wanted to get a sense of where all of this stuff is, and you know what? I thought that was a great point. The problem with the question is that Dungeons & Dragons is the type of game that changes depending on the game master. If Johnny over there wants to play Dungeons & Dragons in Ferelden of the Dragon Age series, he can. If someone wants to play Geralt the Witcher using the Dungeons & Dragons rule set and play in the continent of Westeros of Game of Thrones, you can certainly do that. And of course, the monsters that appear and the type of magic that is possible would most certainly change depending on the setting. However, this channel is going to focus on the Forgotten Realms setting, which is the official setting for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. The only reason I say it is the official setting is because every single bit of content that Wizards of the Coast have released for Dungeons & Dragons since 5th edition came out has been set in this universe. That being said, Wizards of the Coast have made tons, and I mean tons of universes in the past, each with their own story, types of monsters, type of magic, and world rules. There are universes with steampunk style of worlds, others with full-on futuristic realms like something out of a sci-fi game, and many different variations on the medieval fantasy trope. It also seems that every single edition of Dungeons & Dragons focuses hard on a specific world and releases most content for that particular universe. But what even is an edition? 5th edition, 4th edition, what does that even mean? You see, Dungeons & Dragons is a role-playing game, and by the sheer definition of it means that most things are created by you, the player. You create your character, you play your character, you interact with other people's characters by literally speaking to them, and you interact with the monsters, the world, and other NPCs by literally speaking with the game master. Now, you don't really need rules for most of that. Why would you even need rules to play pretend with other people? Well, you need them to define whether something you do succeeds or not. What if you want to attack a goblin? How do anyone knows if you succeed or fail? Does the DM make it up? Do you make it up? What if the goblin wants to attack you? There has to be a constructed way to define how things succeed or fail, and remove as much of the subjectivity of people as possible. And that's where the rules of all of these role-playing games come from. As the rules get updated, the editions move forward. And as you can imagine, the rules back in 1st edition weren't perfect, and neither were the rules in 2nd edition, but they kept on improving them, and as they did, the editions kept on moving forward. Now, I haven't had the pleasure of playing any of the previous editions, but most people seem to agree that 3rd edition was great and that 4th edition wasn't that good, but that they learned what didn't work for it and improved it for 5th edition. But why am I even talking about all this? Well, as editions progress, the rules get improved as we have established. But rules are not the only things that change. The universes where people play also change. For example, an entire continent was removed and a new one added in between the 4th edition and 5th edition for the Forgotten Realms. Time also passes forward as editions move, very similar to how Elder Scrolls work with their story, having the story progress forward as new games come out. The official world of Dungeons & Dragons in 4th edition was called the Nenter Vale, and a fair amount of content was created to be specifically played in this area. For 3rd edition, they did content for Greathawk, Eberron, and a lot of content that could have been used for any traditional D&D universe. For 5th edition, however, it seems that Dungeons & Dragons have said with releasing everything that they have just on one particular world, the Forgotten Realms. So from now on, whenever I mention a specific monster like Beholders or Chimeras, I'll be specifically talking about the Forgotten Realms and worlds very similar to it within the context of Dungeons & Dragons. These, I would imagine, would include Greyhawk and Dragonlance. But let's talk about this universe. What does it comprise? Oh, by the way, Dungeons & Dragons games, such as Neverwinter Nights, Icewind Dale, and Baldur's Gate, are all based on the Forgotten Realms. So this is a picture of how the multiverse looks like for the Forgotten Realms. You have the prime material world, which is where 99% of your campaigns take place. You have the Shadowfell and the Feywild bordering the material world, which we will talk about in some other video. And you have the Astral Sea and the Elemental Chaos. Now, both the Astral Sea and the Elemental Chaos are sort of like your idea of heaven and hell, but not literally. There are evil places in the Astral Sea, as well as there being good places in the Elemental Chaos, but they are realms completely out of reach for the vast majority of commoners in the normal world. The gods that you pray to and the devils that you summon all come from either of these two places. But I'm hoping to talk about these locations on future videos. We already talked about Mechanus, which is located in the Astral Sea, for example, and I'm hoping to do a lot more of those. Let's, however, focus on the prime material plane. Now, this plane is more than just a planet. In fact, it's a solar system, suspiciously similar to that of the real world. It contains 8 planets and a sun, arranged in just the order that you might have guessed. The planet where your character is from is called Toril, which is the 3rd planet from the sun. This planet also possesses a moon, which is called Selûne. What's different, however, is that this moon is being followed by a bunch of asteroids called the Tears of Selûne, which look rather epic from the surface of Toril. Now, I'm going to spare you guys the talk of what's on these other planets, since that's another video in and of itself, but there's a fair amount to each of them. There are elves, halflings, beholders, and even different cultures in each of these planets, but back to Toril. Now, this is a representation of the continents of Toril, however outdated as this map might be. Now, you have noticed something interesting. You have noticed probably that this is suspiciously similar to Earth. You have this continent that looks suspiciously like America, what would be Europe over here, Asia, and a wild Australia hanging over there. This, added to the fact that the solar system is also awfully similar to that of Earth's, poses a question: what's up with that? Well, Ed Greenwood created the Forgotten Realms, and when he talked about the name of this universe, he mentioned that at some point this prime material world was connected to the real-life world, Earth. That when we talk about vampires, goblins, elves, and werewolves, that mostly all of it comes from tales taken from Toril, and that all humans of Toril actually come from Earth. Because at some point in the Forgotten Past, you could travel between these two realities. You could say that the prime material world and Earth were echoes of the same place, but something happened that separated them permanently, and now Toril is merely a forgotten realm to Earth, and Earth is a forgotten realm to Toril. This also explains why when you look at the locations of Toril, the stereotypes of what people live in certain locations definitely match that of real-life Earth. In Faerun, you have the more typical medieval fantasy style of people, with castles and dragons and knights in shining armor riding white horses, etc. Whereas in Kara-Tur, you have Chinese-style dynasties, with katanas and ancient architecture, etc. In Saqqara, you have hot climates and deserts with, genies in lamps and scimitars and tunics with head wraps. Now, as cool as all of these places sound, however, again, 99% of your adventures will take place in a specific continent, and that is Faerun. Now, this place is massive, but a lot of it has been explained by Dungeons & Dragons, either through novels and books and campaigns and modules, what have you, so we have a fair amount of information for most of this enormous landscape. To give you a sense of scale, it takes about 2 months to get from here to there by simply going straight up without any detours. It's big. The most popular location, however, where all of the official campaigns for 5th edition take place, with one exception, are located in this region. This is called the Sword Coast, and is where both Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter are located. You can see I have some pretty sweet maps for this area. Again, since there has been a lot of campaigns for this region, it means that there's a fair amount of art that I can pull to show you guys. But yeah, I hope this answers your question, Mr. Killbox, at least partially. So from now on, if you decide to pick up the Lost Mine of Phandelver or Princess of the Apocalypse or any of the other official campaign modules made for 5th edition, you at least now know where you stand in the grand scheme of things. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and have a great day, guys.